Hello everyone, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we have these beautiful festive cushions that we shall be making. As you can see, the colors speak festivity. There is a red and an emerald green. And yeah, for this I used the pattern called the Houndstooth pattern. Yeah, and I did some modifications in the red, which I'll be demonstrating today. These are both bow cushions with a bow design, but you will see the difference later on. As you can see, the green and white has a seam down there, which I later modified as I made the red one. So let's get some materials and we can make this. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram at _companion_UG. Keep watching, subscribe, share. If this video is helpful to you, it's a season of giving, season of festivity, and I do believe these cushions can make a great accompaniment to your Christmas tree or just as a surprise gift ready to your loved ones. So, going to list down the materials and we can get started. Okay, so over here I have made the first panel. This cushion is worked in panels and my rectangles measure 13 by 7, although when I did this as I worked, I believe the pattern kept stretching a little as I went, but initially my rectangle measured 13 by 7 inches, a rectangle worked in the houndstooth pattern. So I've already done one panel, but today I'm going to be demonstrating. You have to do 2 of these so that we are able to seam them together and then form the cushion that we want to form. So let us get started. Grab the materials that I've listed earlier and let us get started. So I'm going to be doubling my strand. I'm using robin yarn 100% acrylic. You can use a medium weight yarn, but mine is doubled because robin is a bit thin and I want it doubled. So make a slip knot and we are going to start off with a foundation chain. For my case, it's going to be measuring 13 inches in length. But for this pattern, I would request you please use an odd number of chains because we need an odd number of chains to have this pattern work out. And for me, I chained a total of 65 chains. So make your chains that are equivalent to the length of the rectangle that you want. We are starting off with the length because it's going to be worked upwards. So we start from the length and then we go to the width later on. So make the number of chains and I'll meet you back. So I made my 65 chains and over here I'm going to start the pattern. So I'll skip one chain and go into the second chain from the hook and make a single crochet right there, and then in the next chain I'm going to do a double crochet. So yarn over and make a double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook, pull through 3 loops on the hook, pull through once, pull through one more time. Then the next chain is going to get a single crochet, the next chain will get a double, into the next we are going to have a single crochet, into the next we are going to have a double crochet. So keep going like this for this first chain. Just keep alternating the single crochets and the double crochets as you see me do over here. Like that. So this is how we work the houndstooth pattern, which will be revealed later on as we change. And when you get to the end, please make sure you end with a double crochet. This pattern always begins with a single crochet and ends with a double crochet. So make sure by the time you reach the end you have a double crochet. If not, make sure you cross check once again. Probably your foundation chain wasn't an odd number as before, so if it's not ending with a double crochet, then you have to restart this and make sure you end with a double crochet. So I'm almost at the end and I have a few stitches left, so I'll go over that chain with a single followed by a double, a single crochet into the next, and then lastly I'll make a double crochet, as I mentioned that we should end with a double crochet like that. So if you end up with a double crochet, then you're sure that you're on the right track. So that is how our foundation chain is looking like. And now it's time for us to switch the colors, because this is going to be worked in a color scheme of red and white. So we are going to go ahead and transition now to a new shade of color. And for my case, I did not honestly want to weave in so many ends at the end. So what I did, I decided to make an incomplete double crochet at the end. Don't worry, I'm going to demonstrate over here, because this is the best way we go about the houndstooth pattern. Is we are going to be working as we go, but carrying the previous shade behind. So just work the double crochet, but leave it at a point where we have 2 points hanging, and then grab that new shade of color, which is color white for my case. Double strand once again for that medium weight look. But if you're using a very thick yarn, you don't have to double as I'm doing. So we are going to just have it there rolled on your finger and then pull through. Just watch what I'm doing. Pull through like that, and then pull on the previous color red, yeah, fasten it so that it's firm wherever it ended, and then pull on the color white so that it's also firm, and then chain one, fasten, because before we begin the single crochet for the next row, we have to always chain one, which I've chained like that. I know the strands are quite many, but don't worry, you appreciate why we are doing this later. So after chaining one, turn your work, and what you're going to do is to hold that color red behind you as you go. That long chain, don't cut it off, but sorry, not a chain, but that strand of the previous color, just hold it behind you firmly and then work over it. So start the pattern once again with a single crochet followed by a double crochet, holding that previous color behind you as you work like that. It's just me observing to show you how it looks. So single crochet into the next double. So before I continue, if I did mention, this pattern is going to be an alternation once again of single crochet and double crochet. So where you have a double crochet, you put a single crochet, and where you have a single crochet, you put a double crochet. Okay, so make sure you just keep on alternating like that till like we reach the end once again, but carrying that previous color behind you. And the way you can identify the singles and the doubles, the single crochets appear short while the double crochets appear long. So you can use that as a tip when you're working this pattern. It will help you to, it will guide you to know where I'm putting a double crochet and where I'm putting a single crochet. But ideally, once you get the hang of the pattern, you don't even really have to observe that anymore. Just keep going as you're holding the previous strand behind you. So I think you can see that thread that we are working over, it doesn't even show from the previous side. The essence of this, as I told you once again, is to help us not to have a number of ends to weave in by the time we are done, which you will see later on. So keep working that pattern, alternating those stitches till you get to the end, and I will be back to again guide you on how to change to the next color. So I'm at the end and it's almost time to transition back to color red. So as I said, we end the pattern with a double crochet. So right now I'm looking at a single crochet and I'm going to just go there and make double crochet right there. And once again, don't finish it, leave it at the point where the only two 2 threads left. Drop the color white, which we have been using, and grab on that thread you've been carrying and fasten off the color white. Pull on the red and chain a 1, as you see me do here. So now it's time for us to turn our work again, but this time we are going to be working over the color white. Okay, work over the color white, single crochet. As I told you, we begin with a single and followed by a double crochet. Simple. So in case you find this technique complicated, there is no rule book. You can still change color per row you're doing, but that might be a little bit tiresome and hectic for you at the end of the day. So just make sure you keep on carrying that strand of yarn behind you. Keep on carrying it behind you so that you don't have a lot of ends to weave in. So same pattern, we keep going with that till the end also of this row, like that. And yeah, the pattern is starting to play out. I think you can see how beautiful it looks. This is one of my best patterns. So let's meet once that point is done. Once again, that's row 3, and just want to show you again how we end. It's a single crochet we are looking at. So yarn over, insert, and then make a double crochet. Don't finish it, drop it and pick on the color white, which is the next. Yarn over and pull through, pull on the red and fasten the white. I believe by now you've gotten the hang of it. So chain 1, turn, and continue working the pattern the same way we worked it from previously. So this is the row we are going to repeat, the pattern we are going to repeat till we achieve the width, whichever width you desire for your rectangle. Mine was 13 by 7, though of course as you by the time you're done probably the length might have increased a little, but it's okay. Just keep working with the dimensions you initially want. And for me it is 13 by 7. You can also do that if you want. And yeah, we can meet back after that point to see what to do next. So after working the second panel, this is what it looks like. And see, we have two pretty sides. One is dominant with white, the other is dominant with red. And you can see that we only have 2 strands to weave in. That's why I told you to carry this thread as you are going. because you don't have like thread ends to weave in per row. You only have ends to weave in at the beginning and at the end, and that honestly takes you a shorter time, and you always want to save time when you're working. So the two rectangles are ready. Go ahead and weave in those ends, and now it's time for us to seam them together. So you're going to use your stitch markers. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have quite a number of these. So you're going to put your right sides together. For me, the side that is dominant with the white is my right side. So I'm putting the right sides together, as you see me doing here, and I've put these stitch markers on this upper section first because I didn't have enough even for the bottom right now, but when I'm done with the upper, I will eventually shift them to the bottom. So put the stitch markers in place so that the project is held firmly, because it's time for us to seam the sides together. And yeah, that's the essence of these stitch markers, for just that stability. And you're going to grab your darning needle and thread it with the color red, or whatever color you're looking at right now. It might be green or white, I don't know, but thread it with the same color that is appearing, because with the reason why I had that other seam showing was because I used the contrasting color, and we don't want to have the seam showing in color white. We want every seam to have its own color. So insert the thread as you see me do this, and pull through once, and then once again till you have that loop, and then make a knot of some sort to fasten it so that it's firm, and use a double strand for this so that we are also able to achieve something that is firm. For our whip stitch, we are basically going to be whip stitching this, and whip stitching basically means you just go into each stitch with the one that corresponds on the opposite end. So go through the stitch you're looking at and also the stitch that corresponds on the opposite end. That is what we call whip stitching. Don't miss any, just eyeball this and make sure you're not missing any stitch so that everything is firm and secure. Alternatively, you can also do this using single crochets, but personally I found that this pattern was quite thick, and when I tried to pass a needle through it to do a single crochet, it just wasn't working out. So the darning needle approach for me worked best, but whichever method you use, make sure it's comfortable for you. So keep going. We basically call this whip stitching, just going from end to end, stitch to stitch. So keep going like that till you reach the end there, where you have that final stitch marker, and I'll meet you to show you how we go about the side part. Keep going with the whip stitch. So I'm at that point where I'm almost done with the first lengthwise side. Still continuing with the weaving. Towards the end, I'm going to remove that stitch marker. It was helping me hold that end and go through it like that, and just make one more at the side of the row. bit tough there. So now it's time to turn to the side, and for the sides I'm basically looking at the rows. So I'm just going to correspond the red rows and the white rows, still whip stitching, but just putting this whip stitch in every row, into the red row, into the white row, into the red, into the white. That just keep going with this until you reach the bottom. So I'm at the bottom part now. After finishing that whip stitch on the side, I'm at the bottom part, and it's time for me to turn back to color white because we don't want this red thread to be showing on the part where we have color white. So I'll not be continuing with color white till the rest of the width. So I'm going to fasten off the color red as you see me doing. Just watch what I'm doing and do exactly the same. To fasten off the color red because we don't need it at this point anymore. So I've made like a knot there with my darning needle, and I'm going to go ahead and chop off the red. And I'm going to now turn back to color white because now the rest of the side and the next part of the length is in color white. So you're going to thread the white or your next color on the darning needle. Double strand to it, extra secure. Yes. And then now we are going to go ahead and we are going to, from where we fastened off the color red, we are going to insert a hook and connect, sorry, not a hook but our needle, and connect the color white. Just pull and connect the color white. Take your time, make sure nothing gets tangled up because we have quite a number of threads hanging. So once again, make that loop and then go through it to create a knot. Yeah, like that. And now we are ready to begin to also join the white points, the white side. So still going with the whip stitch that we did earlier on. We have a stitch marker there, but I also need to put stitch markers in the middle points so that it's easier for me to work without having the work move around. So these are the stitch markers we had removed from the upper side to now connect and also hold the lower side, or the side that has the white. You don't have to really go through every stitch, but just for some of them, so that as long as the work gets held together, that's what we want. So just make sure that is being done so that it doesn't move a lot. Yeah, so we're going to whip stitch just like we had done the part that had the red, exact way we did that. Do the same on that side where we have put the stitch markers, and we'll meet back when you're done. And also for this other side, don't close it up because that's where we are going to pass our fiber. We are eventually making our pillow. So just go ahead and continue with the whip stitch and we shall meet back later. So right now I finished seaming the white part as well, so everything is seamed, okay, apart from one open edge, but we've seamed one side, we've seamed one row of white and one side of red. So it's time to turn the piece inside out or to the right side, and you can see the reason why we had to use the same color for each side that had its own shade, so that those seams don't show contrasting colors. Where there is white, and where there is red, there is also red. So make sure you push out all those corners, and yeah, this is what we have. The piece is basically ready for stuffing with our fiber. You can see every side is looking neat, corresponding color wise. Yeah, so let's go ahead and grab our fiber and get started with the stuffing. So now we are going to go ahead and start filling it in with the fiber. So I'm putting on this protective gear because I'm quite sensitive to anything that frays. So if you're like me, you can also improvise with this kind of cover up for your hands in case you're sensitive. So go ahead and start stuffing the cushion with the fiber. Yeah, just stuff it generously. Just like that, put in as much fiber. So when you're satisfied with how much you've put in, it's now time to close the opposite end. And once again, the stitch markers have come into play because we need to still hold that side together before we seam it up. And we are going to do that with the mattress stitch, which I'm going to show you in a few minutes. So go ahead and fill that cushion with the fiber, place the stitch markers at that point, and grab your darning needle and thread, and let's do mattress stitch to close this up. So there are quite a number of tutorials on how to do this, but you can still just observe what I'm doing. The essence of this mattress stitch is we kind of want to create some sort of seamless closing up of our cushion. So insert your thread through one side from the inside to the out, then also on the opposite side from the inside to the out. And for this, just use one single strand, don't have to double. Leave that thread hanging which you started with. So do that same motion again from the inside to the out on one side, and then from the inside to the out on the opposite side. So this is known as the mattress stitch, which you can also probably first research on so that you don't have to be so green before you reach this point. So we're going to do the same thing to the next row, inside out on one side. Don't over pull, by the way, make sure you're kind of loose with this. Inside out on the opposite side. Inside out, one side. And inside out also on the opposite side. It's also similar to kind of lacing up shoelaces, if that helps. So keep that in mind. It's like you're lacing up a shoelace. Just follow the in out approach as you go. Just keep going, and when you reach the stitch marker, just remove it and just keep going with the same style of joining up. Inside to out, inside to out. Like that. And we're going to do this till we reach the top of the cushion. So when you reach a certain point, you're going to pull that strand you're working with gently, not too tight, because I at some point had done it too tight and it actually snapped and I had to redo this. But just pull on it slightly so that those threads that you were once looking at, they dig deep and they're no longer seen anymore. They kind of look like they are seamless really, and they are blending in with the rest of the pattern. So after you've pulled it slightly, just keep going with the same inside out technique on one side and also on the opposite side. So you can start to pull it maybe like after 5 or 6 like in and outs, but not for every single one, but just make sure you don't do it at the end, because when you reach at the end and pull it, it's going to snap. So just take your time, don't over tighten as you're doing this motion, but just take your time and just make sure you're able to come up with something that's seamless and neat. So I'm going to just keep doing that until I reach the end. Yeah, keep your stitch markers intact so that you're not struggling to hold the project so much as you're going. Yeah, so I'm almost at the ending point, and I kept pulling slightly. As you can see, the stitches are getting hidden. I think you can see how they disappear when you do that. So I'm at the end, and once again I'm going to pull slightly so that everything is hidden in. Just pull on it a little slightly. And then I'm going to finish it off here in the corner. Just observe how I'm finishing it off. Just do a little bit of back and forth with the in and out there. Do it twice when you reach the top. When you're done, you are going to make a secure knot. So I'm going to weave this in because I don't want to have a weird knot at the top of my work. So just cut on the white but with a strand left so that you can weave it in. Just weave it into the side that has color white. Just take your time and weave that in. Whichever strand you have, make sure you weave it into the same color. White into white or red into red, so that everything remains perfectly hidden. So that's how our cushion is looking like. We are yet to form the bow, don't worry. So weave in that last end as well, and now it's time for us to create the bow that we want the pillow to look like. So thread your darning needle with 4 strands and make a knot at the end. So thread it. That is just for extra secureness. So just pay close attention on this next part over here. I'm going to zoom out a little. So you're going to cinch your project, like cinch it or like pinch it in the middle. The fiber is quite soft, so unless you use quite a heavier stuffing, honestly I find that the fiber was soft and I was able to do this without any much difficulty, although you have to really cinch it in deeply if you want the beautiful effect of the bow. So cinch it in just like you see me do it here. Give it a good pinch at the center there and grab your needle that you already threaded earlier and fix it through that point that you have pressed onto, like the point you've pinched. Just go through the middle all the way to the opposite end, like that. And then what we are going to do is we are going to roll around the center with that strand of yarn on our darning needle. Just roll it around like that. Mine was kinda short, but just make sure you roll enough to the point where you have enough to kind of, should I say, pass through the center to create some sort of fastening. You're going to observe that in a little while, but as you can see, I think you've seen how the bow has come out. So just after you're done reaching that point, just go through that center as you see me doing here. Pull and just have some sort of fastening there. This is just a temporary thread, well, for me personally, because I'm still going to make a band that is going to tie at the center. So this middle tie with this thread is just temporary to hold it into place. But ideally this can also be a design of its own. If you don't want to have a middle band, you can just fasten this over and you'll be done with your pillow. But for me, I want to have a middle band later on, so just chop that off and we are nearly done with this project. And see how beautifully the bow has played out. So before we create that band around, what I would like to do is I'm going to take a measurement around the center of this pillow, because I want to create a band that's going to be firm, that's not going to be dancing around when I eventually finish. Like I want something that is going to be hold firmly at the center. So I'm just going to take a measurement around what you'd call the circumference of this middle point, and mine measures about 11 inches. Yeah, 11. So I'm going to make a band that is equivalent to this but is less by 2. So from that 11 inches I'm going to subtract 2 so that I'm able to have something that's secure enough to sit well, because already this thread is stretchy, so I want it to be secure enough to sit without it moving around. So we are basically going to just now create that band that is going to tie around. So take that measurement and we are going to start to make that band. So for my case, that measurement around was 11 inches, but minus 2, that is 9. So make your foundation chain equivalent to that measurement you've gotten. The circumference minus 2. And then for this band, we are basically going to work the same pattern. And I don't think I have to really go back in detail about that. It's the same houndstooth pattern. So if you still want clarity on that, you can rewind this video and just go back to the point on how we started to make the pattern. But make sure, one tip I can give is still make sure the chain is an odd number. The chain you start with should be an odd number so that the pattern still plays out the same. Okay, so keep working this till you get to the band width you want. For my case, I'm going to work the pattern till I have a total of 3 rows, and I'll be back after those 3 rows to show you how it's connected to the cushion so that we're able to finalize it in the best way possible. So keep going, work the number of rows you want for your band with the houndstooth pattern. After you're done with red, transition to white, and in the same way we did earlier on at the start. Okay, so my band is ready. It was a total of 3 rows, and I also went ahead to clean up any loose ends. So it's now time for us to place it on the pillow, and you can see one side is still having red popping more, the other is having white popping more. So I'll choose the side where I feel the white pops more, because that is the same scheme I was following as I made the cushion initially. So I'm going to just sort of lay my work down, and yeah, we are going to fasten this at the center. As you can see, it looks a little smaller, but don't worry, the thread is quite stretchy, so it will stretch enough to reach the point where we can close this off. So just arrange it in a way that makes sense, and then you're going to turn the right sides together. I don't know if that makes sense. We kind of want to seam this together, so before we always seam, we have to put right side on right side. So just twist it in a way that the right side faces the right side. Don't worry about the twist, we shall later on put it back in a way that it doesn't have to have a twist. So once again, thread your darning needle, and we're going to just basically seam up the middle point. Okay, and since there are 3 rows, I'm just going to go into every row with my darning needle. So first row, second row, and then the 3rd row lastly. Maybe just an extra there for extra secureness, and then tighten and then just go ahead and chop off the excess. So when that is done, you're going to weave in these threads that we left hanging before, the ones that we used to close up that seam. Just thread your darning needle and we are going to hide them in all. Sorry. So when that is done, you can go ahead and just clip off that final thread. And now we are going to turn this over to the right side. Turn over the band to the right side. And just basically arrange it properly. Arrange it in a way that makes sense. So that's basically it for our simple festive project. I hope you enjoyed it, and you can go ahead and recreate this in quite a number of colors. Well, for me, I went with the Christmas colors because it's the season of festivity, but you can still make this even in quite a number of shades if you're interested. But thank you for watching, and as you can see, the seam is not showing on the right side. Just keep on arranging it till you feel like you're satisfied with the way it looks, and do tag me if you make this, gift it to your loved ones, make it as a simple holiday project to just add beauty to your place. And yeah,